What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Bama Standard. Guys, as you guys can see here, we got Justin Riley on here with me today. And look, Alabama just beat Wisconsin 38-14. Supposedly, what could we possibly bring and talk about that didn't happen so great in this game? Well, we're going to share it in today's video, and above us here is the Alabama run game. But Justin, overall, what did you take from that game, and what did you take from the run game before we break this down statistically and get into the numbers here?
One thing I'm very pleased with the effort from our team 2 weeks in a row. The fire is in the tank. Their give a damn button is firmly pressed down and was never released. Got to be happy with that. I love how week by week Ty Simpson seems to be getting much, much better, and we're starting to see him come into his own right before our eyes. Man, that boy was just ripping it yesterday. Wide receivers, God, they're starting to live up to the potential that we all thought they had coming into the season. A lot to be excited about, in terms of the defense. We finally started registering sacks yesterday. We got to the quarterback. We took advantage of Jake Renfro for Wisconsin being injured, and he had to come out of the game a few times yesterday. And shout out, praise to him, man. He tried his best. It wasn't enough, and Alabama was able to take care of that mismatch, and we were able to get to the quarterback. Excited. We had, 4 sacks yesterday. Shout out to London Simmons, who got his first collegiate sack. No one was more excited than his mother, as well as me, because he is a friend of the network. But why are we here today? The run game. Yeah, despite the scoreboard, despite what we saw from the passing attack, the biggest elephant in the room is the run game, or lack thereof. And hey, we were averaging 3.3 yards per carry yesterday for a grand total of 72 yards. Our leading rusher was Ty Simpson with 25. Folks, that's just unacceptable. Ty had a great day yesterday, flung it all over the yard. But at some point, we're going to have to put an offense on the field that provides balance. At some point, that passing attack is going to get neutralized. So we got to be able to rely on our backs to change the game, take the momentum into their hands, and make things happen. Now, this isn't a shot to the running backs themselves, because they were running hard. You see Kevin Riley just exploding out of his stance as soon as the ball is placed into his belly. The problem is there is no push whatsoever. Now, you can argue in the Florida State game that the running game was being very effective, and we went away from it. Absolutely, I can agree with that. Louisiana Monroe, we were able to run, but we didn't do it in a dominant fashion. Still, for the second week in a row, no 100-yard rusher. Then comes the game against Wisconsin. Now, respect to Wisconsin, who has arguably one of the best defenses when it comes to stopping the run. I think they're ranked in the top 5. So they came with it. They got some dudes who can stop. And also credit to them, despite the scoreboard, despite the fact they had no chance at coming back, they were coming hard every single play. However, you want to see some push. You want to see that offensive line that was so highly touted in the preseason living up to all those proclamations of greatness. We're not seeing it for whatever reason.
So, yeah, no, to break this down moving forward here, Ty Simpson had 6 carries, 25 yards, averaging 4.2. And you guys can see the numbers there. Kevin Riley, 7 for 20. Dre Washington, 2 for 13. We only had 1 touchdown, averaging 3.3, like you said, and 72 total yards. Now, against Wisconsin, that's probably not going to be your biggest worry. Against Louisiana Monroe, that's probably not going to be your biggest worry. Even against Florida State, I'm going to chalk that game up as a lack of effort, and just that it is what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But here's where this comes into play and why these numbers actually do matter. In 2 weeks, because we got a bye week coming up this coming Saturday, you won't see Alabama playing. Neither will Georgia. Georgia will also have a bye week. When we play in Athens and you are unable to run the ball, ask Tennessee how that worked out for them. It looked great throwing at the beginning of the game, but when it came down to it, Tennessee's lack of execution of being able to sustain drives and drain that clock will put you in a world of hurt against a team like a Georgia. Really, I'll be honest, Even in a game against Tennessee, this could be an issue actually. So because I get it, Georgia is not a world beater that we've seen a couple of years ago, and Tennessee had its moments with the run game against Georgia and all this great stuff. But you have to be able to sustain a drive. You have to be able to run the ball at least a little bit. In Alabama, since Kalen DeBoer, even since before Kalen DeBoer, by the way, I would say the last 2-3 years, possibly under Saban, it seems like we just can't get it together on running the ball, sustaining these drives. And at the end of the day, you're going to go into Athens and you're going to tell me you can't run the ball. You're one-dimensional against a Kirby Smart defense, and you really expect to come out right with a win? Because Jalen Milroe is not there to run the ball, to scramble out. And I get it. Ty Simpson is a dual threat quarterback. I give him all the credit in the world to that. But at the end of the day, Jalen made big plays last year that had to be made, and Georgia still clawed their way back in that game. Why? Because we couldn't sustain drives by having a run game. And we could be seeing this all over again, but it could flip on its head, in my opinion. With all that being said, I think that's the biggest concern for me. What's your take on that, Justin?
It's a huge concern because, like you said, no disrespect to Wisconsin, we hadn't played the quote unquote big boys of the conference yet.
Yep.
Georgia is still Georgia in terms of what they do from a defense perspective. Tennessee has one of the best defenses in the conference, and yesterday they were without some key players up front and then their two defensive backs, but they were still very effective up front. My question is, or my concern also goes with this offensive line. It looks like there is still some uncertainty with what kind of lineup they want to put out there. We're still seeing rotation from Geno Vandermark and Jaden Roberts. I don't understand why that's going on. Is there something going on with Jaden Roberts injury-wise that Kalen DeBoer isn't disclosing to us? Because let's face it, Kalen DeBoer is not really forthcoming about information. He gives us a bunch of word salad and expects us to be good with it. So that does come into concern. But I will say when Jaden Roberts is in there, the offensive line is performing at their very best. The greatest problem we have is the coaches don't have full faith in the two tackles. I know Caden Proctor is projected to be top 3, top 5 NFL draft, 2026 NFL draft. Well, let's go ahead and call it what it is. He's still getting beat. He still had no problem with his feet, and it's not getting better. And at this point in his career, you expect to see a progression. We're not seeing it. Wilkin Formby, yeah, I've been one of the biggest supporters of him because he got a bad hand. He was given a bad hand last year.
Yeah, he was.
And perhaps unfairly criticized. But year 2, you still aren't making that progression. And it seems like the best production, again, is taking him out and putting Michael Carroll into the lineup. When Michael Carroll's out there, it feels like the offensive line does tremendously better. We need to stop playing musical chairs with this offensive line. We need to figure out who it's going to be, put that unit out there, and allow them to begin to solidify. If there is not any continuity, and we're in Athens, we have Tennessee at home. We go on the road to Missouri, who's playing very well, by the way. We play Oklahoma. We're going to be in a lot of problems, and this is not something that we need to be dealing with. I get it. The offensive line is still fairly new. Hey, shout out to our guy, Cam Dewberry, doing a fantastic job on the offensive line. But yet his experience with this offensive line is very limited. So he's doing the best he can with what he's been given. But that seems to be working very well. But not knowing who you're going to put out there, Vandermark or Roberts, Formby or Carroll, is concerning. We need to figure this out, and we need to figure this out very quickly. And there's only so much that our all-star center can do. There's only so much that, well, he's it because he's the most consistent guy out there besides Cam Dewberry.
Yeah, no doubt. So, yeah, Parker Brailsford has been doing an amazing, I believe he's an Outland Trophy watch on the watch list, right, for that, obviously, moving forward. But, guys, yeah, that was one of the biggest takeaways, and I didn't recognize it till you told me that Vandermark and Jaden Roberts were actually swapping out through the game, and I'm like, there's got to be something more to this. It would make sense if Formby and Michael Carroll was swapping out because he's openly, you know what I mean? Kalen DeBoer has openly said in press conferences that's still an open competition. We're about to run into the fourth game of the season, fifth week, or essentially sixth if you count week 0, and we don't know who the starting lineup is. I mean, isn't there a point in the season to where you go, this is who we have, and we got to rock with these dudes? Because at the end of the day, we're about to face Georgia, like you said, Tennessee. And we're not talking about who I think possibly has the most improved defense in the entire SEC and LSU, who looks like their defense is really legit. Harold Perkins is all of a sudden came back to life since his freshman year. This could be a very serious problem moving forward. And I get it. We want to celebrate the Wisconsin win, but I'm using the Nick Saban 24-hour rule. Well, I'll say 12-hour rule at this point and go from there. Any last words, Justin, before we get off here?
No, there's really nothing else to be said. This is a concern. If Alabama wants to achieve its goals that's set before the season, we're going to have that balance. Ty Simpson is doing a fantastic job, but you can't heap it all on him. At some point, in order for him to be great and those receivers to be great, you're going to have that run game just being what Alabama run games used to be. Guys, we haven't had a 1,000-yard rusher since 2021. That's a long time in terms of Alabama years. We're not used to going any seasons without a 1,000-yard rusher. And no matter what our record was or what kind of product we put out in the field in years past, we were still able to run the ball, and we still produced 1,000-yard rushers. And it doesn't look like right now, regardless if Jam Miller comes back, that we're going to have that. And folks are saying, well, we just need Jam to come back. If the push isn't happening, Jam can't do his thing.
Yep, no doubt. So that's all we have for today's show. And you know what? I want to say one last thing. I'm going to take Brian Kelly's side on this. You know, calling me a spoiled Alabama fan, right? He's calling the media spoiled. I guess I'm spoiled and I'm nitpicking here, but it is what it is. And I just want to see an Alabama rusher with 100-yard. I'm not even asking for too much. I'm asking for a 100-yard game from an Alabama running back. I'm not even asking for a 1,000-yard season, guys. I'm asking for a 100-yard rusher at this point. So I'm lowering my expectations, right? So, but with that being said, we appreciate everybody getting on here. Make sure to leave in the comments below what you guys think. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, all that great stuff. Make sure to tune into the Tuesday night, 6 p.m. Bama Standard Premiere Show with Justin Riley, Marvin Constant, Daniel Petty, and all these great guests that come on there. But either way, everybody have a good day. Shout out to LSU, Brian Kelly, and the spoiled fans. And as always, roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Roll down Tide.